Today's story is the sequel to the video hashtag release Coyote versus Acme that I released last week. I hope you watched that first because I'm not going to explain anything that I explained in that video. Anyway, our story this week starts on Thursday, 6 a.m. I was barely awake, but I live in the city, and in the morning there's enough mysterious and unfortunate noises that happen at the crack of dawn. And one of those noises was my phone ringing with a mysterious message for me. The message said approximately this: "Hello, I saw your video. I'm a member of a hacking group. We have hacked into Warner Brothers. We have extracted pieces of Coyote versus Acme from the server. We are pretty confident we have the whole movie. We just need to reassemble it. We will leak the movie if it seems like it will not be released." The profile picture on the account was an old photo of a Mexican in a sombrero, and I was intrigued by this, but not enough to get out of bed, so I went back to bed. 3 hours later, I finally woke up for real, and when I looked at the message on my phone a second time, it had been deleted. Very mysterious. For the rest of Thursday, I wondered about this message. Was it true? And if it was true, why delete it? So I looked online and I didn't see any signs or evidence that that message was real, or at least I found none on Thursday. So anyway, the next day is Friday. Friday comes the big day. Friday morning, the dramatic morning of Warner Brothers' first quarter's investor call. Unfortunately, much to my life, I listened to the entire thing, and it was literally one of the most boring and tedious things I've ever slogged through, but I put up with it because I was very bored and Twitter was just so hyped with the release Coyote versus Acme hashtag. The project was booming at an all-time high. Even Stephen King and Mark Hamill joined the chorus of people just wanting this goddamn movie to come out already. Unfortunately, the investment call was completely boring corpo slag, with surprisingly a positive spin for the most part. They were abundantly proud that Max had somehow managed to make a profit, that Wonka made more money than expected. However, they were sad that Suicide Squad the video game was a huge disaster, enough to almost crater the video games department, except it was hopefully balanced out by Hogwarts Legacy overperforming. And then finally they reached the Q&A section. Now I was really hoping, betting, just waiting for some rogue agent to come in, someone who had bought enough Warner Brothers stocks to get on this call, to bring up the movie, to show David Zaslav his piss in his face, and maybe, just maybe, some trolls would get into that phone call and shove some business in David Zaslav's face, make him sweat a little. But unfortunately, no such glorious moment happened. Maybe they knew it was coming, maybe they were prepared for it. All the calls were fucking screened. They were given to the oldest, most boring people I think I've ever witnessed on the face of the earth. They called in and they complained about cable TV, broadcast sports, things that haven't been relevant in 20 years. The earnings call was really bad. On top of not even mentioning Looney Tunes once, Zaslav also had the gall to say that Warner Brothers was the most purist story company, which doesn't really make sense, but a lot of people took that as a real fuck you to everyone. After the earnings call, a data sheet was put out. This data sheet lists a $110 million write-down in the animation section. Now, according to Twitter, this is good because a write-down reduces the value of an asset for tax and accounting purposes, but the asset still retains some value and therefore still exists. Whereas a write-off reduces the value of an asset to zero and negates any future value. A write-off is typically a one-time event entered in a company's books immediately when an asset has lost all usefulness or value, but write-downs can be entered incrementally over time, which means that if Coyote versus Acme was written down, it might have lost some value, but the movie could still eventually come out. Whereas if it was written off, then the movie had definitely been deleted for the $30 million tax rate. Nonetheless, the situation was baffling. There's still no major significant data of what actually was written off in the tax write-off, so there is still a chance the movie is still in the cards. So yeah, to me, no news is good news. And yeah, that's what I think anyway. Unfortunately for a majority of people online, they disagree with me. They think that the movie is probably dead, and then we move forward and things start to get murky again. Now, upon learning that the movie was potentially dead, 4chan archivists start going crazy. They start logging every piece of Coyote versus Acme available on the internet because it must be protected because it's all that remains, right? Now, here's the twist. On February 24th, a man named Physical Media President writes on Twitter that he got sent the same cryptic DM that I did. Oh ho ho, maybe it was real if another person got it. This is the first I've seen of anyone else getting it. However, this dude, he's got a shitty track record. Apparently 3 years ago, he claimed to have a copy of Batgirl, and that was pure fucking lies for hype. But nonetheless, the fact he did somehow get the same weird cryptic DM as me made me feel at least a little less crazy about this whole situation. Now, of course, that still depends on whether or not the person sending out these weird cryptic DMs is a real honest-to-God hacker and not some just troll wannabe. Now, on 4chan, meanwhile, there was a broad speculation that Coyote versus Acme might have entered a high enough phase in production that screeners were distributed. I personally do not think this rumor is true. I do not think this is the case because I know enough about the industry that I know pre-release screeners are usually only a thing when a studio is looking for good press, trying to drum up reviews from the press, and Coyote versus Acme was never mature enough to reach that phase because they had foul plans for it. Now, the only hope right now is that the hacker leaker rumor is actually real and not just some random BS. Now, as a sign of good faith that they actually do have the movie, supposedly we've gotten a trickle of new photos coming out from the hackers who had the film. However, even that is not really enough to prove that the leak is real. And that could just be, again, the result of the 4chan data scavenge operation. Nonetheless, enough people believed the rumor that the movie could be leaked that the discussion then changed to whether or not the movie should be leaked at all. With the historic example of Scooby-Doo and Crypto 2 being cited, this film was, your run-of-the-mill Scooby crossover movie, and the film had leaked on 4chan in its entirety about 2 years ago. Now, case in point, even though it leaked, the movie actually came out for real a few months ago. I would say it was a pretty above-average Scooby-Doo movie, cementing the fact that Scooby-Doo is on the ground a story of people living in the DC universe but not being affected by the superheroes. Oh, and by the way, this was a really good Scooby-Doo movie. It's pure chaos. It's got a strange, weird, yet timely version of Lex Luthor, who pulls broadly from both the Superman the Animated Series version and the Gene Hackman version combined. Also, it's really weird that it has the old 70s Silver Age Joker, but with a Silver Age Harley that wasn't a real thing. Nonetheless, the film leak amid the uncertainty that it might have been canceled around the time as Batgirl and the other Scoob movie led to the leak on 4chan. And in some minds, because the movie was leaked on 4chan, that kind of ensured it could come out, because since people had already seen it, it couldn't be written off for a tax write-off. I'm not sure fully what happened with Scooby-Doo and Crypto, but it did come out normally on HBO 2 years later. But I still have a lot of questions about why there was that 2-year wait and why it did wait 2 years after the leak. Anyway, back to Coyote. So yeah, the noise around the leak continued to grow after that. Actual crew members on the production had believed the leaked rumors, and they would come out against the movie leaking because they felt like overall the movie leaking would look bad on them, I guess. But then on a flip side, a large number of lost media projects have now been completely erased from legal sources and now are completely reliant on piracy and digital archiving to prove they ever existed at all. And considering how shady Warner Brothers has been lately, this might be the case of a necessary evil. Anyway, that's about as far as we're at with the leaking situation. It's currently just a rumor and a dumpster fire, and who knows what will happen. If the leak does prove to be real and it does come out, I think I could sleep a little bit easier knowing that I think personally, if the movie is leaked, it increases the chances that it gets released officially because it can't be written off as a tax write-off. But officially, we still have no word on whether the movie lives or dies. So in the end, I guess it's Schrodinger's Coyote. Now, I think Warner Brothers still has a lot to gain from releasing the movie because PR against them right now is so toxic and people do really want to see this movie. It would also make the cast and crew and a lot of other people calm down. But I don't know. If the movie really is a lost cause, then I am praying that it leaks because that will probably be the only way anyone ever sees it. And I mean, it has happened before. Leakers are kind of the main reason that people only ever saw Genndy Tartakovsky's Popeye in its half-complete state. And also, come to think of it, if it wasn't for leakers, Deadpool would have never gotten made. So, sometimes leakers do good. All right, well, anyway, that's the way it stands right now. Maybe the movie will be leaked. Maybe it won't be. Either way, I'll be watching out for it. And I'm sure if it ever does show up on 4chan, there will be a fucking, uproarious roar of people sharing it at the time. We'll see what happens.